Hello everyone, I'm Wen Hao from Samsung Research and Development Institute, China, Xi'an. I'm very pleased to join this workshop. The topic of my paper is improving accuracy and adaptability of SSD failure prediction in hyperscale data centers. My presentation will include the 5 parts. First is the introduction of the background. Secondly, I will present the findings of SSD failure analysis we conducted on Tencent dataset. Thirdly, I will introduce our SSD failure prediction schema, and then the experiment result will be shown. Finally, the conclusion. As we all know, SSD is a high-performance alternative to hard disk drives. The number and capacity are growing steadily every year, which lead to continuous increasing in storage density. However, increasing in storage density also lead to decreasing in reliability, which will in turn lead to great impact on data centers, such as downtime data centers and data loss to data centers. As a great impact of SSD on data centers, both reactive fault tolerance and proactive failure prediction methods are adopted to improve the reliability of storage systems. Extensive research is conducted on disk failures. Pre-order disk failure prediction research is primarily focused on HDDs. However, the findings are not applicable to SSDs due to fundamental difference in architecture. The research, particularly focusing on SSDs, falls short either in the performance or limited to a certain type of SSDs. Pre-order study of SSD failure prediction is faced with 3 major challenges. The first is the data imbalance problem. The second is that the static value of smart attributes can hardly indicate SSD failures. Also, there is a variation problem of smart attribute distribution, which will lead to bias on prediction result. Faced with these problems, we will conduct SSD failure analysis based on a dataset collected from Tencent data centers and propose an SSD failure prediction schema. In our analysis, correlation analysis is conducted to examine the predictability of smart attributes. We find that the static value of smart attributes has a weak correlation with SSD failures. As we can see in this slide, the correlation coefficient of the top 10 most important attributes are close to 0. Therefore, time series related failure analysis is conducted by categorizing SSD failure into 3 types. Time series related failure analysis is conducted on each type. We first conduct time series analysis on SSD failures with disk drop type. There is 2 distinguished failure patterns for this type of failures. One is that the VAF value will increase sharply from a normal value to a relative larger one as data return to SSD or read from SSD increases for SSDs with disk drop failure, while the VAF value of healthy SSD in the same server is always within a normal value. The other is that there will be a sharp increasing of temperature for SSDs with disk drop failure. And in most cases, most of SSDs with disk drop failure will exhibit at least one of the failure patterns on temperature or VAF. Then we conduct time series analysis for SSD failures with median error type. In the analysis, we find that the SSD failures with median error type, the indicator attributes, median errors, will increase from 0 to a very large value either sharply or gradually, while the indicator attributes of healthy SSDs is always 0 or a very small value. The time series changing trend of indicator attributes median errors is indicative to SSD failures with median error type. But in some cases, this kind of change point is behind actual failure. And finally, we conduct SSD failures with bad blocks type. And for normal SSDs, the value of program field count is always 0 or close to 0. And the value of available spare is always 100% or close to 100%. But for SSDs, field SSDs with bad blocks type, there will be an increasing in program field count and decreasing trend on available spares. Therefore, there's a distinguished failure pattern on program field count and available spares. And based on the failure analysis and the main challenge of SSD failures, we propose an SSD failure prediction schema. Our proposed SSD failure schema consists of 3 parts. And the smart logs collected from client is first sent into feature processor to construct indicative input for smart failure predictor. And then the output of feature processor is fed into a smart failure predictor to make failure prediction on smart observations. And finally, SSD failure predictors follow to make failure prediction on SSDs based on the output of a smart failure predictor. Feature processor is responsible for selecting construct indicative input for smart failure predictor, and feature selection and generation is performed in feature processor. And there are one-time indicator and 8 indicative attribute is selected in feature selection process according to the failure analysis result. Then a feature generation is followed to generate new features. Differential features of time features and workload-related attributes and VAF features are generated. And a vector representation of smart data is constructed by the selected new features, selected run features, and generated new features. And taking a vector representation of smart data as input, a smart failure predictor is responsible for make failure prediction on smart logs. And IUS ensemble model and sorting strategy is proposed for smart failure predictor. And IUS ensemble model is proposed to solve data imbalance problems as well as avoiding data loss caused by IUS process. IUS ensemble model is proposed to train n base models, and with each base model applied with a random or undersampling strategy to solve data imbalance problems. And the n base model is trained with each base model. Select 1/n portion of healthy data, and with each 1/n healthy portion is exclusive to solve the data loss problem in an ensemble model. And a failure process and a sorting strategy is proposed as post-processing of smart failure predictor. It will take the risk score of IUS ensemble model outputted as input, and it is based on 2 assumptions. First is that the daily failure ratio of SSDs and smart observations is stable, and the other is that there are no obvious fluctuation in the distribution of smart failure prediction within a day. As a sorting strategy is proposed to make a failure prediction smart observations. It will first categorize smart logs into several groups according to collection date. And for each collection date, smart observation is sorting in a descending order according to the risk score. And finally, give failure prediction for the top P% of observations of each collection date. And the final part is a failure predictor. It will give failure prediction on SSDs based on the output of smart failure predictor. For each SSDs, smart logs are collected periodically and at each collection point in time axis. A failure prediction result is obtained from smart failure predictor. Then a time window sliding in time axis is used to make SSD failure prediction based on the predicted class of smart logs. If at any time the number of smart observations predicted as failure is larger than a certain threshold, for example, in our case, it's a half of total number, then a failure prediction is triggered. And finally, to evaluate the performance of our proposed method, comparative experiments are conducted on a dataset collected from 10 data centers. Our dataset contains smart data collected from over 100,000 drives over a period of about 1 year, and there is 114 field drives in the dataset. Our method is compared with Bayes, random forest, GBDT, and LSTM, and true positive rate and false positive rate, and as well as AUC is used to measure the effectiveness of our approach. We first conduct comparative test. The slide shows the comparative result. Our work as Bayes bring about very high false positive rate, while the other three, random forest, GBDT, LSTM, can only achieve very low true positive rate. As we all know, in a data center, false positive prediction can also cause maintenance cost to data centers. So it is important to limit FPR below a certain threshold to reduce maintenance cost. Our proposed method is able to limit the FPR below a certain threshold. Here is the 1% and achieve a great improvement on TPR compared with random forest, GBDT, and LSTM to reduce the impact of SSD failure on data centers. An evaluation on prediction time and actual failure time of SSD is conducted. In the evaluation, we categorize the true positive drives into 3 groups according to whether the failure prediction time is ahead of, behind, or within the actual failure day. It reveals that there's only 25% of true positive drives is predicted several days before actual failure time. Our further analysis shows that the reason may be that a changing point on smart attributes of field drives always occur only a few hours or even after actual failures. Therefore, more research should be done on introducing more internal attributes such as telemetry features to enable early prediction. Now, as a conclusion, we provide a comprehensive study of SSD failure analysis and prediction. We first conduct a time series analysis and present a failure pattern for each time of SSD failures. And then we based on the analysis result, we propose a novel SSD failure prediction method. And feature selection and generation are performed based on the analysis result. And IUS ensemble model is proposed to solve data imbalance problems. Moreover, sorting strategy is proposed at the post-processing stage of smart failure predictor to solve the distribution variation problem. We also develop a time window based SSD failure prediction method. And finally, we conduct extensive test and analysis to evaluate the performance of our proposed method. And the result also confirm the effectiveness of our proposed method. And that's all. Thank you. And anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Hao Wenwen, for the nice talk. So are there any questions?
Hello. Yes, I do have a couple of questions. So again, I would like to thank you for the presentation. To me, this is definitely an interesting and timely topic since reduce waste of material, especially in data center, is mandatory nowadays. So regarding to this topic, you present some results about the reliability of your prediction based on how many SSD you actually predict the fault 24 hours before or after the actual fault of it. Do you have any preliminary result regarding to how long in advance you can actually predict the fault other than the 24-hour analysis?
You mean how many time we can predict advanced?
Yes, correct. Like your model is going to predict, well, next week you may have 10 hard drive which will have a fault. So be aware of it and start buying new SSD or this kind of issue.
Oh yeah, the prediction time ahead time of prediction may be differ from different type of SSD failures. For example, for median error type SSD failures, maybe it will be predicted a few hours before or even after the SSD failures. But for SSD drop, it may be predicted several days ahead. For some, we may be predicted a week ahead, or some even longer. And for a blocker, bad block related SSD failures, it also predicted only a few hours before. Maybe SSD drop we can predict a 1 week or even a long time ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so you already saw that your methodology is actually able to predict even a long time before the fault. So it would be interesting to have like a sensitive analysis to see how much in the future you can actually predict and what is the performance degradation of the model. And as a second question, if I can, regarding to your methodology, since you use deep learning, which is something that can definitely improve performance with the drawback of explainability. Did you evaluate any of the methodology available for explainability of deep learning model in order to better understand the prediction result? So your model tells, okay, this component is going to break, also understand why it is going to break so that you may perform some operation in advance and avoid other SSD to break for the same reason.
Sorry, I can't catch you. So could you?
Yes, sure. I can repeat. So I imagine that you use LSTM models, right?
Yeah, LSTM model.
So this is deep learning that is perfect for high precision, but the drawback is explainability.
You mean more detail about our model, right?
Yes, basically understand why you have a prediction. So the model tells you this hard drive is going to break, this SSD is going to break, but you don't know exactly why.
Yes. For the model, we just use a normal LSTM model, because currently we don't have so much attributes, but we did optimization on other part. To solve the data problems, we use an ensemble method, which means when we will train several a number of LSTM models to make prediction in an ensemble manner and to solve the data imbalance problems. We can, for each base model, each base LSTM model, we select all the field data and only a part of healthy data to train the LSTM model. So each LSTM model is trained on a more balanced data, and for all the LST model, we can use all the data in the training process, and in the prediction, we can use a sample model to predict the failure. As a result, we can use all the data in the prediction in the training, so we avoid the data loss problem we commonly used maybe occurring undersample method. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for the explanation.
Thank you, and well, if you want, you can keep asking offline. That's fine. I think that we should also move to the next talk. So thank you again, Wen.
Okay, thank you.